Hello everyone watching this episode Study on Spotlight by Dadi Education. I am Regan and today we have a very special guest from Liverpool John Moores University. Hello Bethany, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
Amazing. Do you mind introducing a little bit about yourself as well, your position and also maybe a little bit about the university as well?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Bethany. I work for Liverpool John Moores University in the international department, of course, which is why I'm here. We're based right in the centre of Liverpool, really great city, really accessible, super student-based. So it's a really fun place to live.
Amazing. I mean, I'm sure Liverpool is very well known globally as well. But for those who might not know and only know about London, where exactly is Liverpool?
So Liverpool is in the northwest of England. So we're about an hour away from Manchester, if people know Manchester better. But we're right on the coast as well. It's a slightly cheaper city to live in the UK in general, based in the north, which helps.
Is it the further away it is from London, the relatively the cost of living is not as expensive?
Yeah, so generally cost of living, it gets cheaper the more north you go. In the south, so even more southern than London, it's still a bit more expensive. But the more north you go, the cheaper it gets.
Oh, okay. Comparing between, let's say, Liverpool and London, is there any big differences in general?
Yeah, massive differences. So the common British way is to always compare the cost of a pint.
Okay.
Which is also relative to student life sometimes. Off the top of my head, I'm not particularly great with it, but generally, costs, definitely in terms of cost of living, like renting and stuff, London is absolutely extortionate. You're looking at a couple of grand just for a one bed apartment, whereas in Liverpool you could get the same for half the price, if not less. There are some huge differences. Yeah.
Besides cost of living, what about the vibe of the city? Is it very different? Is it very crowded, very busy, or is it very young?
That's a very good question, actually. So I think it's a similar vibe to London in terms of very international, very diverse. Both cities have really got that going for themselves. But London is naturally busier just because it's bigger and it's got more people. Whereas I think there is a lot of people will say that there's a big difference in terms of friendliness. So London is a bit colder, is what people say. Yeah. Everyone's kind of going in, they're doing their thing, whether it's studying, working, whatever. Whereas Liverpool, everyone's kind of getting to know each other, where are you off to? There's a definite friendliness and welcoming side to the city that I don't think London does have.
Okay. But relatively, I think London is a bigger city.
Yeah, of course, just geographically and population-wise.
With students, because students might think that, of course, they're there for studies, but at the same time, there are weekends. They might talk about entertainment. Liverpool being a little bit smaller than London, does that mean there's not that many things to do? Or what's it really like in terms of the entertainment side or lifestyle?
Yeah, so Liverpool's got absolutely loads going on. Because it's so student-based, we've got 4 universities based in Liverpool itself, which means it's hugely catered to the student community. So, you've got museums, cinema, the standard stuff, but there's so much music, so many gigs. Music is a huge part of Liverpool, obviously, with people know the past of the Beatles, which originated there. But yeah, there's also loads and loads of things going on. So you're not ever stuck for stuff to do. Liverpool's really popular, both with locals and with international as well. People all over the UK come to Liverpool just for a fun weekend away.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's really common.
What do they usually do then when they go there?
So Liverpool's really popular for typically stag and hen do's. So the parties that people have just before they get married.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
So people just love it. They'll go and they'll do the golfing, the fun golf or the indoor golf, or just go around to all the bars and the clubs, or just there's absolutely loads of activities like cocktail making or whatever it is they're after. It's literally there and it's brilliant. There's loads of comedy as well. So it really depends what you're after, but generally you're going to be able to find it.
Wow. Would you say it's relatively a young person type of city? Because you say there's a lot of universities there.
Yeah, so I say predominantly, it's very much focused on student life.
Wow.
You really notice it, especially in the summer months when kind of everyone's gone back to wherever they originally live. So it's quite quiet, especially in the student areas. But there's still, if you just go slightly further out of the city, you can see younger families, couples, everything. So it still caters to everybody. It just depends what your interests are, and then you kind of find your community based on that.
Yeah. We did mention how people might come over just for events and then leave right after. Does that mean it's very close by a lot of cities? from London, for example? How far is it?
Yeah, so you can get to London on the train in about 2.5 hours.
Oh, wow, only?
Yeah, it's not far at all. And as students, you can get your rail card, so you get your discount. So yeah, we're really accessible. I mean, you've got the airports, you've got Liverpool Airport, Manchester Airport, which is not far at all. And then all of our train links, so you can got like Leeds, York, Newcastle, you can get all of them direct. So it's really easy to get around and explore other places as well.
Oh, okay. So for students, if they do come over to Liverpool, do they typically have to fly to London and then go over to Liverpool, or they can just fly directly?
It depends where they're flying from. Generally, Manchester and London are the two most popular.
Okay.
Liverpool's a much smaller airport, so there's not as many flights to that airport. So yeah, either they can fly into London and then get a train up, or they fly directly into Manchester and then just get a taxi or a train.
Oh, okay. Because like I live in Australia, like for us, we always say that, you know, no matter if it's local, international students, driving is kind of like not compulsory, but we would recommend it if you want to just go away or just go around and about, because the land is so big. Is it the same for the UK or just Liverpool in general? Would you say driving?
No, like the UK's small.
No, the Google map, I think it's out of proportion, right?
Yeah. So I mean, in the same time it probably takes in Australia to get somewhere in a couple of hours, you can go to a whole new part of the UK in a couple of hours. So it's really popular to use the train. Like I said, the transport links are there. If not, there's the bus. So driving is, you don't really need it in the same way as you would like the US or Australia, because we're just not as spread out. You know, in Manchester, it's less than an hour on the train. So everything's a little bit more accessible, and you can easily find places to go in just a day. I do it all the time. I go to different cities just for a day to go and see friends. Yeah, it's really easy. So
it's relatively more convenient as well for students. Well, that's good. They don't have to worry about I have to drive.
Yeah, 100%. Like no driving needed at all.
That's good. I mean, you mentioned having that, you know, being a lot of kind of like a student city as well with 4 universities. What about the student accommodation? Is there a lot, or is it very competitive, or what are the options?
Yeah, there is a lot of student accommodation. So it depends on what kind of accommodation students are looking for. So for instance, on our website, we have a list of all of our approved accommodation, which is everywhere within the main city centre, or within walking distance to the university campuses. So it depends which campus you're based at, depends on which one is a bit more accessible. But yeah, I mean, there's loads of accommodation spread throughout that belongs to different universities, and it's all there. So it's really easy to get in.
Oh, okay. What about the, because, you know, especially from Hong Kong or maybe Asian countries, when they go overseas studies, it's not just about education. Sometimes they might look at, is there any opportunities there as well, even if it's just part-time? Is there a lot of those type of part-time jobs, or do you reckon that students, most of them would take up part-time during their studies? Yeah,
we have a lot of international students that try and try and work alongside their studies. So as long as it's in line with their visa regulations, then it's absolutely no problem. It's really common. For instance, within LJMU, we have like a company called Unitemps that we're in partnership with, which helps students find temporary jobs within the university. So, for example, in my department, we hire international student ambassadors every year to work with us and things like that. So we have a lot of international students working for us. And it's great for their CV, and then it's great for us as well.
So it's actually for providing opportunities within the university, not just searching jobs outside in Liverpool.
Yeah, but I mean, both are common. We know students that have jobs outside, like in bars or restaurants or things like that. But also anything that comes up within the university is advertised through Unitemps, and then students can apply directly through that. So it could be like mentoring or things like that. That's really common as well. And it's just a really good opportunity for students just to boost their CV and earn a bit of money.
Of course. But of course, like, I think, you know, for overseas education, you know, academics is not everything. They need to experience their life there as well. That's why there's a lot of concerns about, like, where is it? Is it safe? And at the same time, like, is there anything to do there? It's a balance there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, it is definitely really important to have the experience as well. I think when you're living in a new country, in a new city, it's really important just to immerse yourself 100%. So definitely getting a job is a really good opportunity for that, because it also helps you immerse yourself a bit more with the locals, as opposed to just surrounding yourself with an international community, which is really important as well. So yeah, there's loads of opportunities, and as I said before, the locals are super, super friendly. Everyone, like even just going to like your regular store, people want to get to know you. They want to chat. They want to make sure that you can find everything that you need. I mean, I was new to Liverpool just about 4 years ago.
Oh, okay.
And I found it to be really welcoming. I was shocked when I was going to the stores and they were like, "Hi, from here." I was like, "Oh, I don't know who you are," but no. So yeah, people really just want to help you.
Oh, actually, I remembered something. I'm not sure if it's true or not, but I remember someone telling me that different cities in England have different accents or different ways of speaking. Is it true?
It's 100% true. Like travel just 30 minutes outside of Liverpool, it's a whole new accent.
How I can't tell the difference. Like, how is it very obvious among you guys?
It's very, very obvious. The Liverpool accent, which we call the Scouse accent, is so strong. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to understand.
Oh, really?
Yes, especially if they speak fast.
Wow.
I mean, there's people in my team that are also from Liverpool and they don't have a very strong accent, so it's fine. But particularly in some areas of Liverpool and maybe some like smaller stores or whatever, if you have someone who's born, bred Liverpool, they will have a very, very strong Scouse accent. And it does take a little bit. Sometimes it takes me a few minutes to be like, oh, what have they just said then? And I might have to ask them to repeat themselves. But yeah, it's really common in the UK, like just 30 minutes outside and it's another accent. And then 30 minutes again, it's another accent. It's just, for a small country, we have a lot of different sounds.
Yeah, that's interesting. But I mean, do you think for students, like international students in general, will that like city to city different accent be like something they might not really struggle but be confused about, like, oh, I'm just still in the UK, why is it a different accent now?
They might do. It depends how much they hear it. For some it's a really subtle difference, whereas for others it's much stronger. So obviously if you compare like Liverpool to Scotland or Ireland, really, really different. But if you're not from the UK, you may not hear the difference in accent just between smaller places. So it may be something they don't notice so much. And obviously when you're at university, they probably won't be surrounded by loads of very strong speaking Scousers, in which case everyone might sound fairly similar unless they're from like somewhere a bit more. So it may not impact that much, but then again, if you go to the shops and stuff, you'll hear it all the time.
But they'll get used to it eventually. It just takes a bit of time.
Yeah. All the international students I've worked with, they will say, takes a bit of time, but once you get used to it, you know exactly what they're saying. And worst case scenario, you ask people just to repeat, they don't mind.
Of course. Yeah, of course. They're friendly as well.
Yeah, of course.
They'll just find it like the expectation will be like, yeah, because my English is not the best, but maybe I'll take some time. But then they're hearing a different accent. They're like, oh, okay, that's something else.
Yeah, it's totally normal. I mean, my first language is English and I still struggled. So it's totally acceptable.
I mean, it's good to hear that. At least for the students, they're like, okay, I can have any reason to know that I can take a bit of time to learn English as well.
Yeah, of course. It's a very good reason.
But I mean, besides language, do you think, because you did mention, you know, not in camera, but you mentioned you lived in other cities as well around the world.
Yes.
Do you think for like an Asian background person moving to Liverpool in the UK, is there a lot of differences that they might find is like a culture shock and might not take a long time for them to get used to?
Yeah, there are a lot of differences. I mean, the way that the UK, for example, the way we speak to each other, we're very polite, very wary. We queue all the time for absolutely everything. Queuing is almost like integral to just being a British person. Our food is much blander. We do have loads of Asian supermarkets in Liverpool, so everyone can always get the food that they're after. But I mean, it depends. If you really love fish and chips, then you know, get yourself to the fish and chip shop and you'll love life. So there's a lot of elements that will be different. I mean, after myself living in Beijing for 5 years and then moving back to the UK, I had reverse culture shock, even though I'm from the UK, and there were still elements. I was like, oh, I wasn't expecting that. But you just adjust, and as long as you go in with an open mind, knowing that everything will be a little bit different, it's totally okay. And then you just get used to it.
Of course. I mean, you did mention that there's Asian supermarkets as well. So how's the Asian community there? Like, is it a big community or how's it?
Yeah. So we have a really big Asian community in Liverpool. We've got our Chinatown and our Chinese Arch, which apparently is one of the oldest in the UK, or the oldest in the UK.
Okay.
There is a stat there somewhere, I'm sure. But yeah, so we've got loads of Chinese stores, Asian stores, restaurants. So if you've got a craving for some local food, then you're bound to be able to find it.
Wow.
Or if not, make it yourself.
Of course. Oh yeah, that's one thing. Because I feel like, do you think that international students, you would suggest that to be more independent, cooking is something that they must learn? Is it an essential thing, or is it something that's optional? You don't really necessarily have to do that when you're an international student in the UK.
So I think that very much depends on budget as well. I know from speaking to our international ambassadors, a lot of them arrived in the UK not knowing how to cook anything because mum and dad had cooked everything. And then they tried to get maybe home foods in the UK, realised that they couldn't and thought, I'm going to have to learn to cook, and then taught themselves to cook. So a lot of it, I think, came from craving those kind of home-cooked foods that they couldn't quite get in a restaurant. So they learned and taught themselves how to cook from there. So I think it depends, again, on budget, because obviously it's more expensive to eat out. But also, you know, do you want to be able to make some of your own foods from home, or are you happy just going to... So yeah, it kind of depends. But I think just from a student point of view, it's important to be able to cook food. You know, even if you only do it a couple of times a week.
Of course.
It's definitely a talent worth having, just because eventually in life you are going to have to cook at some point.
It is interesting. Like a lot of students who go overseas, they look like, you know, they graduate from high school and then they all their life they've been relying on parents. And then the change that you see once they go overseas, not even for a whole year, maybe just for one semester, and then they come back and you see like, oh, I'm started cooking, I can do this myself, I can do that as well. It's a big change that parents do appreciate. That's why I feel that going overseas, you know, besides the academic part, your soft skills is also part of the value of why you should go overseas. Like you're paying so much money compared to doing it locally. It's really to give that exposure to being independent and also immersing yourself in a completely different culture as well, which is always not really highlighted, because a lot of them are saying, why do I have to go overseas? I can still get quality education locally, and also it's cheaper, and I have to get that foreign currency. I still get the same friends from high school, but why overseas? Like, what's your point of view? Like, why should students go overseas in general?
So I think it encourages an open-mindedness that you just can't get by staying where you're from, even if where you live is maybe particularly diverse or anything like that. It pushes you to an independence, I think, that you can't get. And also, when you're an international student and you're immersing yourself in an international community, you're not just going to be around people that are also from Hong Kong or China or whatever. You're going to be surrounded by everybody from all over the world, and they can teach you things. So you can learn stuff about, you know, Morocco that you wouldn't ordinarily know, or, you know, if you make friends with a Moroccan, they cook you food or anything like that. And it gives you more of a worldwide perspective. So it's not just you know, in England, it's you actually experiencing other people's experience of England from wherever they're from, and learning about their culture, about their beliefs, about the things that are important to them. So I think all that is, you know, it makes you who you are. Yeah,
absolutely. Like exposed, not just for academics, but others' lifestyle. It's still education in a way, but not like academic for a degree, but like learning about different cultures, exposing yourself to different areas as well.
And it teaches you to communicate really well with people completely different to yourself, with completely different set of skills. And it creates a confidence in you, I think, as well, just to kind of put yourself out there and go for it. And it's okay to make a mistake, and it's okay to not be successful the first time. Like, you're going to get to where you want to be if you just put yourself out there and you just talk to people and you're open-minded.
Of course, definitely. I mean, from your experience, I mean, of course, I don't need the statistics, but just from what you see as well, do you reckon most international students who graduated, do you think they tend to go back home, or do they think they want to pursue some sort of career or life in the UK, or maybe specifically just in Liverpool as well?
Yeah, so a lot of them actually stay in Liverpool. People fall in love with that city, and that's it. They want to stay. So I do know that a lot of students, they will try and stay. They'll try and get a job, obviously with the graduate visa. That's what their first plan is, essentially. So a lot of them do pursue that. Or if they're doing a bachelor's, they will stay and do a master's.
Okay. So one way or the other, either further studies or find a career.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about career then, is there any opportunities in Liverpool that you feel like has a lot of potential or is very popular among international students or emerging, you reckon?
So my knowledge of this is not quite as strong. There are some areas, particularly more niche areas, I would say. Maybe like engineering. There's a lot of business opportunities as well.
Oh, okay.
But again, depends on your portfolio, your experiences, your kind of who you know as well. So I'm afraid my knowledge of that is a little bit more vague.
Oh, good.
But we have students that have, they'll come to us and go, oh, I got this job and they're doing really amazing. So there's stuff in the NHS as well.
So quite vast.
So it is quite vast, yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, like the employability rate, then it would be quite high, I suppose. And if you see that, people getting to jobs in different positions in Liverpool.
Yeah. So LJMU's employability rate is quite high.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we do all right.
So
Yeah.
is it just in general, like most degrees, the employability rate is quite high? That's the main focus of you guys in providing the degree?
Yeah. Well, for most degrees, there's a lot of transferable skills anyway. And it's just how you apply those and how you've learned them and what you do with those. And then obviously you've got your more specific ones that take you down a more specific route. But even if a student's done a bit more of a general or a vague kind of topic, there's still a lot of transferable skills within that. And all of our courses have some sort of work-based module. So there's always something which will push students out into the work environment, whether it's for a term or a couple of weeks or just for an assignment, just to have that experience to put on their CV.
Of course. I mean, from what you think, do you think is there any particular faculties or programs that are particularly more popular for maybe China or Hong Kong students or just international students in general?
Yeah, so we have quite a few ones. Our engineering courses are very popular, as with our business. But also sport is really, really big at the moment. And the university ranks really highly in sport, particularly with like our gym and the facilities that we've got. So like sport business is also on the climb as well. So it really depends what kind of avenue students want to go down. And if students are maybe torn between like, say a business course and then sport, we encourage maybe do the business course because you can do so much great sport on the side anyway, because we've got such great facilities, amazing clubs that they can join and still pursue that whilst doing the business course full time.
I mean, talking about sport, it's something that I want to talk a bit more because, it's similar to creative arts. People feel that if you want to take that particular field, you're not going to find a job. Like in sports wise, is that the case? Like if you take sports, you have to be an athlete, or is there actually more opportunities than what typical people think there is?
Yeah, there's loads more opportunities. It's not all about being an athlete. I mean, there's so many things within sport where it doesn't require you to run a marathon 100%. And sport business is just like that. If you've got the knowledge and you've got the passion, then that's all you need, really. You don't have to go to the gym. You don't have to join the clubs and go swimming or play football or whatever it is. I mean, obviously, people are huge football fans in Liverpool, so I'm not going to dampen the spirits of them. But yeah, definitely, sport's a really emerging market. And with the facilities that we've got, it's a really good selling point for LJMU.
Oh, okay. I mean, you did mention facility as well. What about like the campus as a whole? Do you mind describing what the campus is like in LJMU?
Yeah. So LJMU is made up of two campuses. We've got the City campus and Mount Pleasant campus. So Mount Pleasant is our faculties like business, social sciences, sport, law. They're all based around there. And then our engineering and our sciences and our health is all based at City campus. And they're probably about a 20-minute walk from each other.
Oh, that's close. A walk?
Walk.
That's so close.
Yeah, very close.
Wow, why not just join them together? It's like, because I thought you were going to say 20 minutes train. I'm like, that's still close.
No.
Walk? Wow.
So we're based right in the city centre. So our buildings, instead of being campus in terms of everything's on one campus and you enter and you're at LJMU, our buildings are emerged within the city. So you're very much in the city of Liverpool. Your building where you've got your lecture might also be next to a restaurant, which is also next to a pub. And then you can just pop to the restaurant for lunch if you want and then go. So you're very much part of the city. There's no separation. And it also means that you merge a lot with other students as well.
Yep. Pub. That's one thing I think of as well. Like,
yeah.
I think it's a culture thing that people need to know that, of course, in our kind of concept, drinking alcohol is not like highly looked upon as a positive thing.
Yes.
But like, do you mind sharing, like in the culture of the UK, like going to pubs and drinking alcohol is not necessarily like a party or like a negative thing. It's like a social kind of activity, right?
Yeah, it's 100% a social thing. I think just because, I don't know why it is. It just it's just how it's been. You know, everyone gets together and you have a drink, and you have a catch up. And if you do that over a pint or a cup of coffee, it makes no difference. It just depends what your preference is. But it's very much a way of getting to know people, of, you know, meeting up, and because, well, the UK weather is cooler than here, which is sometimes nice. It does rain and it is cold. And so actually meeting up outside for a walk isn't always a practical solution. So therefore meeting at a pub or a bar or a coffee place, that is, you know, it's warmer, it's indoors, everyone's happy. And then you can choose your beverage of choice.
Of course. So mainly like alcohol is like, I mean, it's very common, I would say, in general.
Yes. Yeah.
Because I want to bring the message is like, it's not as bad as we think from our culture. Like going to overseas, you know, drinking alcohol is just normal social. It's not just like here they're like, oh, because some people, they kind of shy away from mentioning that there are pubs or some sort of night events going on around them. And then I want to bring that message is actually, it's good to acknowledge them because it's true, right? There's no point hiding away from it. Even if you lie now and then they go overseas and they realize, oh, it's actually there. Why didn't you tell me about it? So rather than hiding it, why not just let them know?
Yeah.
Exactly. And teach them the knowledge, like educate them that it's not as bad as you think. It's not that type of impression. It's there because, like you said, it's too social. It's like a coffee shop, but it's just alcohol.
Yeah, 100%. That it's just people's way of socializing, of getting together with friends. If there's a big group of you, a small group of you. And if you're not interested, you don't have to. But if you are interested, then go for it. Exactly. It's just, it's there, but you know, you can be as involved as you want to be. But it's definitely not a bad thing. It's just a cultural, social thing that British people like to do.
Exactly. I mean, ultimately, like you said, when you go to pubs, you can still attend it, but just get
grab a lemonade.
Exactly. Like I said, just get a soft drink or get. I mean, I went to the UK once, and then my friend took me to a pub. I'm like, I haven't had alcohol for so many years.
Yeah.
And I looked at the menu. I was like, "There's hot chocolate." I'm like, "Please."
Yeah.
And they looked at me. They're like, "I don't think they've used it," because they looked at me weird. I'm like, "Oh, maybe they haven't made a hot chocolate for many years."
Maybe
they're like, "Hot chocolate." I think they're going to check my ID as well. How old is this guy? Getting hot chocolate. I'm like, oh, why not? It's cold outside. Of course I want something warm, right?
Yeah, of course. That would make sense. Yeah, it's definitely becoming more of an... I think it used to be a bit more alcohol dominated, whereas now, like you say, if you go to a pub, you can just get a coffee or you can just get an orange juice and no one really bats an eyelid. It's just like, yeah, that's what you want to drink, that's fine. And obviously when you're a student, you're studying, you most likely do want a soft drink because you might have to get up for lectures in the morning.
Exactly.
But yeah, it is just a social thing. And like I said, you know, you want a warm, cozy place, the pub is your place.
Definitely. Yeah, I'll go again. Like to prove my point, I'll go to a pub again.
Yeah, go again, get your hot chocolate.
Get my hot chocolate. Maybe I'll get a coffee this time or a tea.
Out.
Exactly. I mean, people do go to pub just for dinner, right? They don't even actually, or to eat, right? They don't even actually have to go there for social. So it's actually, I think from an international kind of point of view, is you can treat it like a restaurant that just serves a lot more alcohol than usual. You can actually eat there.
Yeah, 100%. People love it. They call it pub grub. Pub grub. It's very specific dishes like a macaroni cheese or like a roast dinner, like very typical kind of just stodge.
Yep.
But you know, that's sometimes what you need on a chilly day.
Yep.
You want to go in, you want to get your pint and you want to have some pub grub.
Yep.
And like fish and chips again is another example of that. So yeah, people love it.
So it's like a proper meal. It's not like just snacks because people think that alcohol is probably like just peanuts and like just some chips and that's it.
Yeah, I mean, if that's what you want, fine. But you know, you can get a proper meal at a pub. Yeah.
And I think there'll be more pubs than restaurants in general. Would you say that? Oh, really?
I don't know, you know.
Oh.
I think it's fairly even. I think your kind of typical British pub, we have a lot of them. But in the city centre, I think we do have more restaurants because it's catering to students more. And while students don't mind a pub is kind of more of a traditional kind of British thing, whereas like your restaurants are becoming a bit bigger and a bit more, everyone wants a slightly more modern version, I suppose, of things. But it's a similar concept. You still go to a restaurant and get a pint.
oh yeah, that is true. See, exactly. There's actually no difference, right?
No
like
difference.
The name, whatever
it's
pub.
Just the name.
It's just a name, exactly. You can get the same thing.
Yeah.
You can go to a Chinese restaurant and order red wine if you want.
Exactly.
Or even beer, whatever works for you.
Yeah, it all caters. So.
Exactly. Yeah. Because back then, like I think 20 years ago when overseas studies wasn't as common, people always have so many question marks like, what's it like? And then now we have the internet. Everyone are just seeing different news. But like I said, news is not the best source of information because news only reports the most dramatic worst cases, right? So I'd say news is a reference to tell you what the worst or what the best can be, but never use it as a way to say that's what every daily life is.
100%.
Because to be very honest, like there are news that are saying like the crime rate is very dangerous and says, of course, not necessarily Liverpool, but they're saying UK in general, or maybe in Australia and Canada as well. But I feel like if you travel there yourself, you actually don't see it. They only report the the more dramatic ones, but that's what news is about, right? Trying to report the most dramatic cases.
Oh, 100% agree. The news is, like you said, it's take it for what it is at its worst. I mean, when I used to live in Beijing, my family would say, "Oh, we've heard this." I'd be like, "That's not really that true because of this." And the same now. Now I'm back in Britain. I still follow a lot of Chinese and Hong Kong news, and I see it. And if you just read that and you knew nothing else, it does look bad, but I know it's not like that. So 100% take news as just the worst case scenario, and it's rare because the news doesn't share the good, fun stuff.
Or the more frequent things.
Or the more frequent things.
Daily life, you don't need to share it, right?
There's nothing to sell.
Not newsworthy,
so exactly.
News is about updating the most up-to-date things that I feel like a wider audience should know about, but they're most extreme cases. Like changes in many things. But on like a daily life, everything's normal, right? No matter where you go.
Yeah, exactly. It's totally normal and it's safe.
Exactly. So that's why like going overseas is very important, not just because some people will be like, I can just study online. If I want to go there and just look online. We're like, no, you're not immersing yourself into it. And sometimes what they portray online is not reflected 100% on what it actually is. Like go for there for yourself. Even for us, we travel around the world to visit our partners. Like it's just to close that gap, even though we can provide a lot more footages, a lot of content about the location, but we can't experience it for you. So it's really for us is to share our own experience and then encourage you to come. It's not to replace your experience.
Yes. Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's the same with any kind of social media outlet, whether you're following influencers or universities or news outlets. There's only so much you can get from it. But actually, if you really want the experience, you've got to go and get it yourself.
Exactly.
Because everyone's experience is going to be different anyway. You're going to surround yourself with slightly different things depending on your interests or the people that you meet. And the only way to gain that is by going yourself.
Exactly. Because, I mean, Hong Kong, very specifically, it's a city. Like, there is only so much you can explore and experience. UK being a country very big with a lot more resources, there is so many things that they've never tried, and I feel like you have to go there. Like you can look at a lot of videos, but if you never tried it, you'd never know if you like it or not.
Exactly.
It's definitely very important to have that mindset, like exploring. That's why I say the value of paying so much money to go overseas. Like it's an investment, not just for the 4 years, but what you're exposed to, not just the academic side, the soft skills, multicultural, the diversified, all that experience means a lot more, which helps you in the long run. It's not just that 4 years, right? You can share stories, you make friends. And I feel like the main difference that I see most students come back is they become more open-minded and they're a bit more, how do I say it, extroverted, I would say, to a certain degree. Like they're more used to interacting with people, even if they're strangers. Like they talk a lot more, they're a lot more friendly, and they're more understanding as well, which means a lot more than just the academic side of things.
Yeah, it's life investment, 100%.
Exactly. I mean, I like that, life investment.
Yeah, it's absolutely life investment. When I did my undergraduate, I was an exchange student and I moved to France for 6 months. And it made me. I mean, before then, I'd only really been on family holidays. I hadn't really gone very far on my own. And I went and I did this by myself. And after that, I just never looked back. And I did tons of traveling. And then I moved to China. And it's just, it completely shapes you. It absolutely does.
Amazing. I mean, from your experience then, because you did study abroad, well, did an exchange, kind of like international student, what's your advice or experience you can share? Like, how do you get the most out of it, of your international education experience?
I think it's just about the people more than anything, the people that you meet and the place that you go in terms of just, I mean, when I was there, I had the opportunity to do quite a bit of traveling. So I traveled a lot around Europe while I was there. But it's about, it's just about meeting amazing people and sharing your life in a way with them that you wouldn't perhaps if you were stayed at home. Because you kind of have to get on with it. You're all there. It's new for everyone. And you just look after each other and you almost become each other's family and you just create this community. And it's just the open-minded. You've got to keep open-minded. There's going to be challenges 100% because there's challenges in life anyway. And it can be scary stuff moving abroad 100%. But it's about being willing to face those and it being okay if things go a little bit wrong or you struggle with something, that it's okay and you just keep going.
Or talking about that, I actually just thought of something as well. Like you know, in the UK, because that's such a long history, and then, you know, the phrase of being a gentleman and, you know, being very well mannered as well, it's something that people feel is very heavily looked on in interacting with people from the UK or in UK in general.
Yeah.
For international students, because we're very casual, you know, we don't know how the hierarchy works or how to talk formally. Is that something that is still, you know, very important or like looked very heavy on, that students might feel like, oh, I need to really look at the social norms, like how do I interact with a person that's my senior or like a junior? Is that still a thing?
I think it's less of a thing in the UK than
Okay.
I noticed it more, for example, in China in terms of the differences between how people spoke to their elders and things. There's still a relevant, you have to be respectful, but I think you have to be respectful to everyone rather than just because they're older. It's just everyone, just be respectful, be polite if you don't know them. I think so. It's more that as opposed to, there is a difference definitely in terms of like in a job setting in comparison to other settings. But there's a bit more casual with lecturers, for instance, as well now. I think maybe a few years ago it was different, but nowadays people can often be on a first name basis with it, and they're okay with that. It still definitely exists in the job setting, particularly with like job interviews. Everything you speak in a completely different way. But in more day to day, everything's a little bit more casual.
I mean, the etiquette there, like, it depends on the setting as well.
Yes.
Exactly.
It's mainly setting more than anything.
Oh, actually, etiquette. I'm just thinking. I mean, I live in Australia, but we never fine dine. So the food etiquette, we're just like, we just grab whatever we want. But is that something that you feel that international students shouldn't be too embarrassed or worried about not knowing the food etiquette? Like, how do you use the cutlery? How to talk to waiters? No, that's something that they, like, when I went there, I always felt like, okay, I need to be like very, very formal and respectful and act just like everyone. And I was like, how do I call the waiter? And my friend was like, no, you don't call for them. You wait for them to come. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
But I'm like, they're so busy. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I'm like, someone, please. I'm so hungry, guys. Can someone come over? And they're like, no, don't do that. I'm like, what? What do I do then?
Yeah, so you don't do that in the UK either. You have to wait for them to come to you. But it is difficult to get out of that, because I learned in Beijing, I was like always waving to get... And then it was my brother who was like, don't you dare do that. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry.
But I'm like, but they're so busy. I'm just scared.
I know, you just they don't
Exactly.
notice, and you think, oh, I just get, and he's like, don't wave. I was like, okay, I'm not going to wave.
Well, I'm hungry, guys.
I know. No, you just have to wait. And it is just all about politeness. And I mean, I know in the US, it's obviously tipping is a huge thing. In the UK, it's less of a thing, but it is just a polite thing to do. So I do it more so.
Right. Oh, okay.
But my brother works in the industry, and he's a massive tipper. So he's taught me, please tip.
Oh, wow.
So
but it's still not compulsory. Like,
it's not compulsory. It's completely up to you based on the service you've received, essentially.
Would you say like it's fine dine that like because the tipping culture is like the more expensive, the more kind of luxury the meal in the restaurant is, you tip higher as well. Would that be something that's similar in the UK, that people would tend to have that mindset and do that as well?
No, the most I ever tip is just 10% of whatever I've paid for.
Wow, 10%.
Yeah, that's the most I would tip if my brother's there.
10% is quite a lot. I mean, North America is like 12 to 15 and 18.
Yeah.
Now it's 20 as well, I think, some places. I mean, when I went there, I'm like, I was like, let me budget myself. I'm like, that's not possible. I don't even know how much I'm going to eat. And then I have to put 15% as well. It's like, there's no way I can budget my travels.
Yeah.
But then in other countries, I'm like, oh, it's easy. It's 38, it's 38, it's 10, it's 10. I didn't, because I feel bad now. I went to the UK and never tipped.
No, don't worry. I wouldn't normally tip. And again, if I just get a coffee or a drink, I don't tip 100%. If it's a meal, and normally with a few other people, if it's like a bigger meal, then between us all, it's not so bad.
Okay.
If it's just me or whatever, I wouldn't bother.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Again,
then.
it's not compulsory, like I said. It's completely up to you. And I don't think people are offended if you don't tip, because they already get their salary. It's not part of their tip.
Yeah.
So it's slightly different rules.
Oh, do you know if an international student does part-time, their salary is different because of their age or because it's international, or the hourly rate, there is a minimum wage?
There is a minimum wage. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. It has just gone up, I think.
Oh, okay. Good news, guys.
Yeah, good news. I can't remember what it is, but there's a minimum wage. I don't know if it changed. I think it changed between 16 and 18, so you can start working when you're 16. And then it goes up, I think, again when you're 18. And then
the age does increase.
So it's the age thing. It's got nothing to do with if you're international or not. Yeah. It's just purely based on the age.
Oh, okay. Is it the same, like, no matter if you are domestic, international, or different cities as well? Is it all the same nationally? Or?
No, cities is different. Again, if you're in London, I think you get slightly higher. So salaries are higher in London purely because of the cost of living.
Yeah.
So you get extra. But I don't know how it varies otherwise. I don't think it varies massively between other cities.
But is it by law? Like if you're in London, you have to be in this minimum wage range. And then if you're in another city, by law, you have to be at least...
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so London works on a difference.
Of course. But then, I mean, the cost of living, like you get higher wage, but then you're spending a lot more on everything. So
exactly. So it kind of evens out anyway.
Exactly. It cancels each other out. There's no difference as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
So yeah, it's all based on age. It's not whether you're domestic or international. It's just as long as you're that age, that's how much you'll be earning.
Of course.
Yeah.
I mean, one final thing, I guess, so we talk about general things. I mean, more about the university, just about the programs. Is there any particular programs, before we end this, that you want to highlight to let the audience know? Is there anything like, have a look at this program?
Yeah, well, so I can give you our most popular courses within each faculty. So within business, some of our most popular, like I mentioned before, we've got sport business, which is really increasing. We've got accounting and finance. Marketing is huge. That's becoming a huge thing. Just general, just like digital media, all of that.
Doing it right now.
Yeah, exactly. Business management as well has always been huge. And then within your art and design faculty, architecture is really, really popular. It's a really good one as well. Fashion is also becoming big. We've just done a lot of fashion stuff with Shanghai and everything, which was really cool. Graphic design, again, anything to do with kind of media, that's really, really being pushed up. Our engineering courses are really big. So anything to do with civil engineering, architectural engineering, these are really, really big ones.
Yep.
Computing, again, also on the rise. AI stuff as well. We do have an AI course, which is getting really big. And then our science, we've got sports and exercise science, science and football. So again, all of our sporty ones, and you don't need to be an athlete for it. So it's great.
That's good. I mean, overall focusing on the employability areas. So it's really focused on that side as well in these programs.
So these ones are really, really good for that. And then we've got like our biomed, pharmacy is huge as well. Our pharmacy one is already full for this year.
Oh, wow.
We've also got cosmetic science, which is massive. Yeah, that's really popular as well. And just those slightly more niche ones, which are just really increasing in both employee rates and popularity.
Wow.
So these are good ones.
Well, I'm glad people have been listening. You can repeat that as well. It's a video, guys. Repeat that, all the lists as well. But yeah, if you have any interest on Liverpool John Moores University or anything about education, feel free to contact us or, of course, Bethany as well. So yeah, thank you so much, Bethany.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. All right, see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.